Hi, I'm Joe Weaver, creator of the MetaZone system, and welcome to our first hangout. Tonight we have a special guest, my friend and colleague, Steve York.
Howdy, Joe.
Hi, Steve. Steve is
He's special.
Don't interrupt now. Steve is a meditation expert. He's been meditating for 39 years and has been a student of meditation for just about as long.
Yeah.
And he's going to enlighten us tonight on how to make meditation so easy and enjoyable you want to do it every day. Now, I've known Steve since the 1980s and have worked with him occasionally, and he's actually we're working together on the MetaZone system, and all of the information that we'll be bringing to you over the next hour will be about meditation, and some of you may have seen the meditation book that Steve wrote. We'll be making that available to everybody in this coming month. So it's called MetaZone. It's called Beyond Mindfulness,
Yep.
MetaZone Meditation. So I'll turn this over to Steve before I stumble over any more words.
You've done good. Thanks, Joe. And just for the record, we just came from a group meditation program with a bunch of folks in the area where we live. And welcome, if you can't tell, to the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. It's a soggy Thursday night, but even the soggy night in the mountains of North Carolina is beautiful. So we're happy to be here and happy to be here with you. And as Joe said, we've both been practicing meditation for many years, a big chunk of our life. Most of our family members practice meditation, as do a lot of our friends. And when Joe created the MetaZone program for fitness, the meditation part was just a natural fit into it, and he can tell you a little bit more about that later on. But as Joe said, I've been doing this for most of my life, and I've had the good fortune to learn from, as has Joe, from really some of the best teachers out there. I started in 1975 and took the regular meditation courses, and then we both moved into some advanced meditation courses called city programs that are extended, longer meditation programs. And what we're going to be talking about tonight has more to do with the basics of meditation, what it is, what it isn't, what the benefits are, and how you can benefit from it as well. And as Joe said, the main point is to try to point out how easy it is for anybody to meditate. Probably, and I know one of the questions that we'd gotten earlier had to do with why meditation seems so hard for some people, or how they couldn't clear their mind, get rid of the thoughts in their mind and try to meditate. And probably one of the biggest misconceptions out there about meditation is that it's hard, that you have to try to meditate, or that you have to try to clear your mind of thoughts. And so maybe what we should do is back up a little bit and talk about what really is meditation, and what is the process, what's happening when you meditate, and then get into that area of distinguishing why it isn't hard, why it is easy, and why it can be easy for you. So meditation comes from the ancient Vedic tradition, which is well over 5,000 years old. The earliest recorded writings of it and utterances of it are at least 5,000 years old. Yoga comes from that tradition. And it's the oldest tradition that the world knows of. It's the oldest recorded tradition of any kind that the world knows of. And these ancient seers, or they were called rishis, way back 5,000 years ago plus, cognized this knowledge about various ways to improve your life and to tap into the source of life, into the source of thought. And the word transcendence, or transcend, came into being back then, but it was called dhyana, or meditation, back in that time, from the ancient Vedas. And dhyana really means to transcend, and that's what meditation is. It's not about thinking about something. It's not about trying to create a mood about something. It's not about trying to have a vision or an image about something. It's not about listening to anything. It's not about trying to do or think of anything. Meditation is about going beyond thought, transcending thought. And to make it even more specific, if the technique that someone is practicing doesn't allow the mind to go beyond thought, to transcend thought, then it isn't really meditation, it's something else. And there are any number of techniques out there that have a value to them, but if they don't allow the mind to transcend easy and naturally, then they aren't really meditation. So I think that's a very good point to make, and we've had a couple of questions about that where we can clarify that a bit more. But the history, as I said, is at least 5,000 years old, and we were fortunate to learn from people who've been passing that tradition on for that full 5,000 years. So it has to do with the purity of the teaching, the naturalness of the teaching, the effortless way that people learn to meditate, and that is really the key to it. Meditation should be, and when it's done properly, is easy. You're not trying to clear your mind of thoughts. You're trying to simply allow the mind to do what it does naturally. The mind naturally wants to transcend from the more active levels of thinking. Very often it's correlated to the waves on the ocean. The mind naturally wants to go from that busy activity on the surface of the ocean to the depths of the ocean, to the depths of the mind, to the subtlest, quietest level of the mind, where it's completely still. And that level of the mind is called the transcendent level. And the techniques that we teach in meditation, metazone meditation, are designed specifically to take you to that level of perfect stillness or perfect transcendence. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's really what we're talking about here, and that's part of the distinction. Do you want to throw in anything there, Joe?
Just that I know a lot of questions came up. A lot of you are thinking that you've heard a lot of things about meditation, a lot of different kinds of meditation, and there was a lot of questions of what actually is meditation, and I think you've really answered that pretty well in your opening comments. And there's this other big question about a lot of people seem to have difficulty with establishing a regular meditation practice and having it, most importantly, having it be enjoyable, something that they look forward to each day, instead of something that they're trying to force themselves to do. Yeah.
And I think that's it. I think the reason that a lot of people have trouble meditating is because they're trying to meditate. And when you learn meditation properly, and we have various techniques for it that came from the Vedas, but when you practice them properly, there's no trying. There is thinking, and in our particular case, there's both the thinking process and also the breathing process. We teach both a breathing meditation, it's called pranayama, and a mental meditation technique. And the breathing is very akin, obviously, to what metazone is all about. Metazone is all about a particular type of breathing technique that takes you into the zone. The reason it's called metazone is because of that experience of getting into the zone, which is the same thing as being in the transcendent, where everything is acting automatically, where the mind and the body are functioning harmoniously and coherently together in a very natural, easy, automatic way, so that the mind and the body are able to function clearly and easily without strain. Same thing with meditation. When it's done properly, there's no strain, because you're not trying to clear your mind of thoughts. You're not trying to focus on a particular thought. You're not trying to strain on a thought or create an image or a mood of something. You're simply practicing a technique that allows your mind to naturally slow down, sink lower and lower and lower into the transcendent level or the zone. And that's what we teach. And with the breathing techniques and with the mental techniques, you simply practice the technique. It's automatic. If you don't strain, if you do it easily and the way that we would teach you, it's an automatic process that will take you to that zone level. And frankly, before you know it, you're in the zone. what happens with a lot of people is they're practicing the technique and they're practicing the technique, and it's easier and more enjoyable as you go along. And then there will be this sort of gap in awareness, sort of silent period where time seems to stop, motion seems to stop, everything seems to just disappear, so to speak, from a relative standpoint. And that moment, or those moments where the mind is experiencing that gap or that non-thinking, is exactly what the goal is. The goal is to get to that point of non-thinking. That's the zone. That's the transcendent. That's the silent level of thought, from which really everything in life and creation, and certainly human life, evolves from that most silent, quiet level up into activity. So the value and the purpose of meditation is not so much for the wonderful experiences that you have when you're doing it properly. It's more for the benefit that comes into your life after you've meditated. Sure, the meditation experience can be very blissful, very peaceful, very quiet, very silent, and completely enjoyable. But the real benefit comes in how that silence becomes effused into activity. It moves up into your whole being. It really floods your whole being with this blissful silence. And it's on that basis that the mind is able to function more smoothly, more easily. The body is able to coordinate with the mind more smoothly and more easily. And everything becomes a bit more harmonious. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But the minute that you begin to meditate properly, and the minute you start enjoying it, the mind and the body go, ah, I'm at home. This is where I come from. This is what I'm all about. And this is what my life is based on. So that's sort of a little background on what the experience may be from the practice of proper meditation. And as I said before, when it's done properly, it's effortless. Whether it's a breathing technique or whether it's a mental technique, when it's done properly, the small amount of activity that goes along with it is not something that's a strain, and it's not something that's difficult, and it's not something where you're trying to make yourself think or be something. It just happens automatically, and that's the kind of technique that we teach.
I think it's important, Steve, at this point to define what we are calling meditation, because meditation has gotten, in general, the general meaning has sort of expanded to include all these other practices.
Right.
And what we're calling meditation is the kind of practice that will allow you to transcend thought.
Exactly.
It's not the same kind of practice as what some people call guided meditation, or listening to binaural beats, or some things like that, where it's
more being mindful.
Or being mindful. Yeah. And it's not that there's anything negative or wrong with those techniques. They all have their values. And society is just sort of starting to understand what meditation is all about, and that's why I think there's some confusion and that everything is getting labeled meditation.
Right, and I think that's one reason why we labeled the book Metazone Meditation Beyond Mindfulness, because mindfulness is a hot topic right now. And one thing about Western culture and society is every time something new comes up, it becomes a hot topic for a while and then it goes away. And everybody adds their own interpretation to it. One thing that we've tried to do with our instruction and with our book on meditation is not add a lot of ego or our own personal level, what we call the garage guru approach to meditation, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We're trying to keep it just exactly what it is, exactly the process of transcending. And so there are a lot of techniques out there that as Joe said, tend to create confusion about what meditation really is. And the confusion about that also results in people not getting the benefit that they're looking for when they meditate. And so it becomes difficult, or becomes frustrating, or it becomes unfulfilling, and so they don't keep meditating. And so the meditation that we teach is the kind of meditation that yogis back in the caves many thousands of years ago were teaching, and that we're helping to bring out again here in modern day. But let's take, for example, mindfulness. That's a phrase that started back in, at least in Western culture, started back in the 60s and 70s during the big cultural revolution, the flower power revolution. We were around then, so we know a lot about that.
You were?
Yeah, we were babies, of course, but
That's right.
But nevertheless, we heard about that.
Oh, we heard. Yeah,
we heard.
Over the radio.
Over the
movies.
Probably something in a diary we read.
Oh, let's see. There was that movie Woodstock. We
Yes,
heard
that was it. That could have been it. Were we there? We don't know, and since we don't know, we probably will. So anyway, the mindfulness came out back then with some of the guys that were experimenting from various universities, and one of the people who changed his name to Ram Dass came out with the notion of be here now, and you've probably heard that, and that's a great concept. I'd like to, be here now. I would like to be fully here now, being in the present, in the moment. And so that sort of moved and transitioned into this notion that, okay, then what I need to do is I need to be mindful about where I am, what I'm doing, who am I, what am I thinking right now? Okay, I'm thinking right now. So I need to be mindful that I'm thinking about now, or I'm thinking about it's a beautiful day, so I'm going to think about that for a while. And so that stream of thought, or what they call sometimes stream of consciousness, is sometimes what's called meditation. I'm being mindful because I'm thinking about what's happening right now. So now
the idea that a lot of people express is they're sort of witnessing the thoughts go by.
Yeah.
And that's the goal that they have, is just to watch the thoughts go by without being involved with the thoughts.
And the problem, of course, with that is you can't be thinking about a thought and not be thinking. And the distinction between real meditation, transcending dhyana, and thinking about something, they're just 180 degrees apart, because if you're still thinking, you're not transcending. You need to transcend thought, meaning go beyond thought, to the source of thought, total silence. So as long as you're thinking, be here now, I'm here now, where am I? I'm here now, what am I thinking? I'm thinking about this, I'm enjoying this moment, I'm enjoying that, this is really great, you're wonderful, I'm wonderful, the trees and the flowers and the birds are all wonderful, and we're thinking about them right now. Thank you very much. So get out the fly swatter quick. So that could go on forever, but that's not transcending, because you're still thinking. And frankly, it's a very, very active level of thinking. It's a highly focused level of thinking. And if you think about that for a second, you can't be highly focused on some concept or ideas or thought process and transcend thought. So again, the proper meditation is about taking a practice, a procedure, a technique, and doing it gently, naturally, and easily until you are going beyond that technique itself. You're transcending the actual technique. And that may seem a little abstract, and we talk about that more in our book, and we'll be having more of these broadcasts where we talk about it too. But you're going beyond the technique, and there's a point where you slip beyond the technique itself, and you slip into the transcendent. You slip into total silence. You slip into non-thinking. But it's not that you're trying not to think. It's that you just naturally slip into the zone. You slip into the transcendent. And every time you do that, you're tapping into the infinite source of pure consciousness, total, complete, infinite consciousness. That is the source of thought. It's the source of life itself. And every time you transcend, it's like bathing in that. It's like your whole being is bathing in itself, in its pure consciousness, like jumping into a lake and coming out completely drenched and soaked in the water of the lake. So the same thing when you transcend thought and go into thoughtlessness or pure consciousness, into the source of thought, when you come back out into activity, or even come back out into another thought, you're coming out drenched in that ocean of pure being and that ocean of pure consciousness. And again, I'm sorry if this is a little abstract, metaphysical, but that's what it is. It is metaphysical. It's beyond the physical and to that which is beyond the physical, which is called metaphysical.
But it has the physical effects of the benefits of feeling refreshed, more alive. Uh, Colors seem more vibrant. It's easier to accomplish things. It's
Right.
easier to get things done and focus on things. It has all these rejuvenation effects.
And it's because it's infused with the consciousness, which is the source of all that anyway. The source of your ability to think, the source of your thoughts, the source of your senses, sight, hearing, speech, smell, touch, all of your senses. The source of that is in pure consciousness. And when you tap into that and you drench your senses and your awareness and your mind in pure consciousness, then, as Joe said, that comes back out into your activity. So your activity is richer. It's more full. It's more fulfilled. In quantum physics, it's the area of going into the quantum zone of the source of all creation, the source of all matter, and the source of all physics is in that area that's just beyond the laws of nature. But that's what infuses the laws of nature and brings it out into activity. So I hope that's not too abstract. I hope that makes a little bit of distinction between some of the techniques that are often called meditation or not. So mindfulness is one. Be here now. I'm thinking in the moment. I'm being in the moment. I'm trying to be in the moment. I'm still trying to be in the moment. And how long do I have to stay in the moment? That's pretty exhausting. You can't just sit there for 5, 10, or 20 minutes or 30 minutes or the rest of your life thinking I'm in the moment, I'm in the moment, I'm in the moment, I'm in the moment. You just can't do that because you can't do anything else except think about being in the moment. So when you're transcending, you're not thinking about anything. You're going to the source of thought, and that's coming back, and it automatically brings you into the moment because the moment is eternal. Consciousness is eternal. The moment is actually eternal. Time is just an illusion, so to speak. It's a great wise man once said it's like a yardstick for measuring eternity. So when the real moment is now, the real moment is eternal, and the real moment is what we are all capable of experiencing all the time. And so when you're meditating, you bring that back out into activity. So that's a metaphysical side of it. Other techniques that are often confused with meditation are like visualization, taking an image or a picture of something that inspires you, that's uplifting. It could be a religious picture. It could be a beautiful flower. It could be a painting that you really enjoy. And that's called visualization. It may be an inner image where you're trying to think about that image and focus on that image. And that's a wonderful experience, and there's a value to doing that. There's no question about that. It actually trains the brain and the neurons to fire in a certain way to capture those good feelings and those good images within the mind. And again, there's a value to that. But again, it's not transcending. When you're thinking about an image, when you're focusing in your mind on an image, you're still holding that image in your mind. Now, it may morph into various other images. You may be holding the image of a flower, and then your imagination brings a butterfly or a bee into it, or bird, or some other creature, and then you start thinking about the bird and the butterfly or the bee or some other creature. And then that may morph into thinking about the beautiful sunlight or this beautiful sunset or the dewdrop on the leaf. All of those things are images that may morph from one to the other, but you're still on the thinking level. You're still thinking about that image, so you're not transcending. The only value to an image or any other thought is if you can actually transcend it. So visualization would be a technique that's often confused with meditation, but it really isn't meditation because it's keeping the mind still on a very active surface level. And then, Joe, there are any number of other, you mentioned the binaural sounds. There's some great technology out there which you put on a set of earphones, or you can just listen to it on your audio player or whatever you may have. And so you're listening to certain sounds. They tend to induce a certain brain wave pattern, very often an alpha brain wave pattern. And the alpha brain wave is a level that's certainly lower than active conscious thinking, but it's not transcendent. It's still on the active level of the mind. It's a very pleasant level, and that's very often where you'll find a lot of creativity and imagination coming from, is from that alpha level. And those binaural sounds or audio sounds can help the mind embrace that sort of level of vibration, and that's fine. That feels wonderful. But again, it's not transcending. It's still on an active level of the mind. So there are 2 or 3 examples of distinctions between other techniques and the actual technique of transcending. This isn't our knowledge. This isn't something Joe and I made up. This is knowledge that's been around, as I said, for over 5,000 years. And scientifically, it's been proven to work. Scientifically, if you practice meditation properly, then the mind will transcend thought in all activity, and the EEG brainwave patterns will measure that there is just pure stillness. And again, when that happens, the body and the mind are at such a profound level of rest that not only are able to bring that creativity and that full consciousness into activity, but also the body itself is getting such a wonderful level of deep rest that it is repairing itself in the process while you're meditating. So there's at least a dual benefit there. There's a physiological benefit, psychological benefit, mental benefit, and just the whole perspective and experience of life becomes richer because of the transcendent.
Very good.
So
I think there's another point that fits in right here, is the vehicle of to the transcendent. When we're talking about transcending thought, there's usually, I believe, 2 main vehicles that take you to that junction point. One is breathing techniques,
right,
and the other is sound or mantra techniques.
Right.
And to visualize what happens in the process of transcending, if you have the right instruction of the process of meditation, and you have a correct vehicle for that process, then it's like you're being a diver. It's like your mind becomes like a diver, and the sound or the breathing become the vehicle. They're like taking the correct angle. And you take the correct angle and let go, and that's the vehicle will let you transcend beyond thought.
And it's exactly right. And if it's a proper technique, the proper vehicle, then the letting go is automatic. I think earlier I said something about the fact that very often when you're practicing these meditation techniques, the breathing techniques or the mantra mental technique, those techniques, as the way they were cognized eons ago, were proven to work automatically. So you're not trying to quit thinking. You're not trying to transcend that technique. It happens automatically. It's simply a matter of how, through the specific breathing technique or the specific mantra mind technique, the way it works is when you practice it properly, it just becomes finer and finer and finer, less and less concrete, more and more abstract, sort of soft and fuzzy to the point that it eventually just sort of disappears. It's sort of like fog that disappears in the morning sunlight as the sun gets brighter and the fog just sort of disappears. The technique itself works to allow the mind to transcend. And with the breathing technique, it's very typical that people will be doing the breathing technique, and as I said, they'll find, oh, I forgot to be doing the technique. There's this sort of gap. I wasn't really thinking about anything. Felt really good. I don't know what was happening. It wasn't some flashy experience or anything like that. It just was pure silence. It was just some sort of gap in the thinking process, and it was completely peaceful. And that is exactly what you're shooting for. And everything along the way is increasingly charming as well. So when you're practicing the mental technique or the breathing technique, it's extremely common that you get to the point where you may find that some time has elapsed there where you weren't actually practicing the technique. And when that happens, you just simply come back to it very gently, very easily. You don't try to force it. You reintroduce that technique, and then you'll find it just slip out of it again. But it does happen automatically. It's not like you're trying. As Joe said, it's like diving. If you take the right angle from the diving board into the pool or the lake or the pond, you're going to end up at the right target just by taking the right angle, whether you're shooting a bow and arrow or any other target practice. If you have the right angle and you start properly, then you're automatically going to go where your goal is, and that's what's happening when you're meditating.
So, Steve, we have a lot of questions that people have written in.
Okay, good.
Are you ready to take questions yet?
As ready as I'm going to get.
Okay, I wanted to...
We bought this time, we might as well use it.
I wanted to mention, and we'll make another mention later on, but Steve, besides having our book, which Steve wrote, and it's a great book, and you can actually learn meditation from that book, there's a tremendous value in having personal instruction from a teacher. And Steve is going to be available for personal consultations and also personal instruction. And I think that is a great opportunity to talk with someone and learn from somebody who has 39 years experience. And I counted up what I thought, how many hours Steve has meditated, and I came up with a little over 27,000 hours.
And I counted every one of them, by the way. On my watch, there is every hour.
He has a little knife, and he took...
Right. We used up all the walls, making little marks on there for way too many years. But Joe brings up a good point here. By the way, as you can probably tell, we have a lot of fun with this. We're serious about it, but meditation is fun. It's enjoyable, and it's something that tends to bring the humor out. At least we're laughing at ourselves as we go along here. But one of the points that Joe brought out about the coaching, and one reason we decided to offer that is because people have different lifestyles. You have your lifestyle. Everybody has their own lifestyle. Some are more demanding than others. People's work style may be such that one type of meditation works for them, and another type may not be quite as practical, or they may not be ready for it. And some people need to move into the water slowly. So the techniques that we've developed allow people they can start right with a full-blown mantra meditation, sit down, eyes closed meditation, and then we have our breathing techniques meditation. All of those are there to help adapt to your particular level of interest, your level of commitment to try the meditation and to give it a chance to work for you, and also the time that you have for it and how your lifestyle fits in. So that's one way that the coaching works, is because what usually I'll do, or Joe will do, is we'll sit and talk with someone and find out, what is your level of interest, what is your lifestyle, how much time do you have during the day that you're willing to commit to devote to your meditation and enjoy it. And based on that information, then we will customize a meditation program that will fit into that. And all we ask you to do is just do it. Just practice it the way we teach it to you. And if you have any questions, ask them, and then we'll check in with you periodically to make sure that it's going smoothly, or to answer any other questions that may come up. We want you to get the benefits from the meditation. We want you to enjoy it as much or more than we do. And we want you to be a practice that you can carry throughout your life and share with your family, friends, and loved ones as time goes on. So that's part of the value of the personal coaching, is that we can try to customize a program that best fits your needs, your wants, your level of interest, and your commitment level. Right?
Right. It's an important point to make, that if Steve and I weren't thoroughly enjoying our meditation practices, there's no way that either one of us would continue to do it for the period of time that we've done it.
Well, we'd be home watching TV right now.
Right.
Or something else. But it is, like I said, when it's practiced properly, it's completely easy, completely fun. The biggest obstacle, Joe knows it, the biggest obstacle to meditating is people thinking that it's tough. The biggest obstacle to proper meditation and enjoying it is trying to meditate, trying to make it work, straining on it so that, oh gosh, it can't be this easy, it's got to be a lot tougher than that. Everything else in life is tough. But if you've learned anything from us MetaZone guys, as Joe's famous phrase will tell you, you don't have to kill yourself to get a killer body. You don't have to kill yourself to enjoy meditation.
You don't have to kill yourself to have a killer meditation.
No, you don't. You don't have to kill yourself to enjoy life. There are struggles and there There are obstacles that come up in life. The beautiful thing about meditation is you find over time, gradually over time, that those struggles are going to come and go. Those challenges are going to come and go. But your awareness and that sort of inner happiness, that inner peace, that inner joy just begins to grow quietly within you, so that as those challenges and opportunities, the ebb and flow of life, as those things come up, you're able to sort of ride the wave. And one of the analogies we use, sort of like surfing. A good surfer knows how to take whatever wave comes and make the most of it. And as the surfer becomes more and more experienced with the technique of surfing, then the surfer is better able to pick that wave and ride that wave and make the most of it from its inception all the way to shore. And enjoy the process, no matter how big the wave or how dramatic the ride may be. Just enjoy the process. And that's really what it's for. It's so that we can all enjoy this life that we have as much as possible, no matter what's happening.
Yeah, it's the opposite of thinking that in order to you have like a badge of honor or a badge of achievement if you struggle to accomplish like a good meditation program or a good workout program. That's the thing with the MetaZone system. We don't believe in struggling, and we think it's actually counterproductive. And my experience and a lot of other people is that with the techniques of enjoyment and staying within that, we say there's all this stuff about getting out of your comfort zone. What we're talking about is stay in your comfort zone. Get so deep into your comfort zone that your comfort zone expands. And that's doing something the easy way versus doing it the hard way.
As you probably noticed, we have a hard time staying out of the comfort zone and trying to be serious about it. But as Joe said, it's not about strain. It's not about no pain, no gain. It's about just taking it naturally, taking it the way nature prescribed for our minds and our bodies to function at their optimum. And that's the thing with extended meditation, with continued meditation over time. One of the great benefits that comes from, other than just enjoying life more little by little, every day, every moment, finding sometimes that you're happy for no reason at all. There's nothing outside going on that brings up that bubble of happiness. It's just you inside. It's just the bliss inside of you. But beyond that is finding that your awareness becomes more acute, your appreciation for the variety and diversity of life becomes richer and broader. You don't feel like you're living in that little box that maybe you were forced into as a child growing up. And I don't mean the do's and don'ts. I mean more the fact that you're able to see over the fence. You're not captive to the awareness that you had before. And it's not just about gaining specific knowledge about something. It's about gaining the ability and the appreciation to enjoy knowledge. Enjoy gaining knowledge. Things become more and more wonderful. Experiences in life become more and more titillating, more enjoyable, more exciting, and more nuanced. Everything about life becomes a little bit richer with the meditation. So not only are you working on the healing and the reparative benefits and aspects of meditating, but you're also building your awareness, building your consciousness, building your mental capacity, unfolding your mental capacity to the fullest that you possibly can in this lifetime. And that is possible for every human being. It sounds sort of glorified. It sounds almost surrealistic, but you've heard about it before. We didn't invent it, and we continue to experience increased charm in life because of the meditation practice that we have. And again, it doesn't mean that there aren't bumps in the road. There are a lot of them, because that's just life. Life is relative. It's up and down. It's here and there, black and white. It's light and it's dark. It's everything that is the relative, the ebb and flow of everything in life. But again, it's like the surfer being able to just move through that a little more peacefully, a little more calmly, consequently with a little more joy, a little more happiness. So that's part of what comes out of that.
Are you ready to take questions now?
I guess so.
Okay. So
this better be a good one.
Well, we got a lot of questions, and there's a lot.
Try to trip me up here, because if I can't make up
oh boy,
an answer.
Let's see.
How many meditators does it take? No.
No, that's I
not
didn't have that one.
Okay.
Do you have that answer?
Many.
Many. Okay. Here's one. Do I have to change my beliefs, have faith, or follow some guru for meditation to work? And this is from Charlene in Idaho.
That's a great. Hello, Idaho. Love those French fries. So the answer is no. So that's it. We're going to go to the next one now.
Okay, next question.
No, let's talk about that a little bit more. One thing that Joe touched on earlier and that I touched on earlier is that these are techniques. They're mechanical techniques, easy, natural techniques. They're not beliefs. It's not that you have to have faith in something or someone or a deity or an image or a concept, any kind of belief system for them to work. So the answer is no. You don't have to have a specific level of faith. You don't have to believe and follow some guru or some religion. Now, like anything else that you're learning in life, for example, if Joe is coaching you on his MetaZone fitness program, any number of aspects of it, well, he's the expert at it, so you want to at least listen to him and follow what he teaches you long enough to where you've mastered it, quote, where you've mastered it and you're doing it as well or better than him. And that's really the ultimate fulfillment for any coach, is that the person that they're coaching becomes their own master. They become their own coach. They transcend the student or disciple role and they become the master. So, and when that process is taking place, then the only faith you have is the faith that you have in the experience that you are having, and that's the only level of not having doubt that may come into it. If you're having a good experience, the only advice is don't doubt it. If you're having a great experience, don't doubt it. If there's something you don't understand, ask, and between Joe and I, we'll try to give you the right direction, the right answer for it. It's all about your experience. No faith. You don't have to follow a guru. You don't have to go live in a cave. If you want to do all that, that's great. There are a lot of people who've done that throughout history, and they love it. If that's your lifestyle, go ahead and go for it. But the beautiful thing about these techniques, the beautiful thing about yoga when it's done right and understood properly, the beautiful thing about meditation and Joe's fitness programs when they're done properly is you don't have to think about or try to force them to work. They just work. You don't have to believe that they will work. They just do.
They just follow the natural.
They follow the natural flow of what your mind and your body, your consciousness, your senses, your intelligence, and your being naturally want to accept. What their basis is, what their fundamental basis is anyway. And so all that's happening is that you're getting in touch with that fundamental basis.
And as a result, you're going to have different experiences on different days that you meditate.
Right.
One day you're going to have a super peaceful meditation, and the other day you may have a very active one where your mind doesn't settle down. Exactly. In fact, I remember that was one of the questions that had come up about meditating. I think somebody had said that, it's hard for me to meditate because it's hard for me to clear my mind, try to force thoughts out of my mind. So what you're bringing up is perfect because, again, when you're meditating properly, you're not trying to force thoughts out of your mind. If you're having an active mental day and you're practicing meditation technique properly, then you just simply take those thoughts as they come in really more of a passive way. They may be emotionally charged, they may be intellectually charged, a little bit of both. It doesn't really matter so much. Really what's found in the mechanics of proper meditation is in most cases the thoughts that come up are thoughts that are closest to your heart or mind at that particular moment in time. And so as you're releasing the stress
in your nervous system, releasing the busyness in your nervous system and going to that silent level, those thoughts tend to bubble up and are very active. So in some cases, when you're meditating, you may slip by that busy activity and you just find that silence very easily. In other cases, you may stir up a lot of thoughts and a lot of impressions that are in the mind and in the body, and you're just releasing those. So it's not a matter of trying to push thoughts out of your mind, and that's the biggest problem people have with trying to meditate, is they think I have to make my mind a blank. You don't have to do anything. You just practice the technique, and it'll eventually get to that point.
It's like the diving. You take the angle, and it'll go.
Right.
And while you're taking that angle, if there is a thought, if there is a stress, that stress may bring your mind back up to the surface.
Right. Exactly.
As you're releasing that stress. And that's a natural process. What happens, you may find yourself thinking about this and that, and you just come back to the technique when you notice that.
Right, exactly. Whether it's a breathing technique or the mental technique, the mechanics, the actual scientific and physiological mechanics of meditating are one fundamentally of stress release. And we're talking about stress, we're not talking about just little nuanced things. We're talking about deep ingrained stresses, deep impressions within the mind and the physiology within the nervous system that tend to inhibit us developing our full potential. And that's one of the real benefits of meditating, is to develop your full potential, your mental potential, your physical potential. And by getting those blockages, those stresses out of the way, you're able to better enjoy life and enjoy the process of meditating as well. And so when those thoughts, as Joe was saying, when they're bubbling up, and sometimes, for example, you may have an exam coming up later on in the day or tomorrow, or you may have a business meeting, a presentation that you have to do, or you got to run your kid to this activity and that activity, a lot going on. And so those are the things that are on your mind, and they're actually creating stresses. It's not that you're just aware of them in your mind. It's actually that they're forming impressions in your mind and your nervous system. And the beautiful thing about meditating is that you release the impressions, you release the stresses that those thoughts are creating, while at the same time being aware of the things that you have to do during the day. There's no reason to be able to think, process thoughts, and then perform activity, and it create a stress. There's no reason for that other than not having a technique to release the stress.
Ready?
Next. Yeah, next.
Excellent, excellent. Very good, Joe.
Well, thank you so much. Reinforcement crew over here.
Okay, so...
Our audience.
Whoa, somebody's got a phone call.
Well, somebody's calling in. Come in.
Okay, I hope our person at the desk got that. I think they did.
Yep.
Okay, here's a very good one. Since I'm a Christian, I've always thought I should think about God or Jesus and pray for inner peace. Isn't that meditation, and wouldn't it work better? There's a good one for you.
That's a great question. That's a sensitive question, too, and you know, for what it's worth, both Joe and I come from spiritual backgrounds and religious backgrounds, and most of us were raised with some sort of thing, so we're very sensitive to that. The answer, again, is no. It isn't the same thing as meditating by definition, when meditation means to transcend thought. So if you're thinking about or cherishing the idea of God, or if you're a Christian and you're cherishing the idea of Jesus, or you're a Buddhist and you're cherishing the idea of Buddha, those are wonderful thoughts to have, and those are wonderful feelings to have, and those are things definitely to nurture and to cherish. That's something you do separately. Praying would be something, because praying is an active mental activity. You're thinking about something. Whether you're reciting a particular prayer, maybe you're singing a hymn that is prayerful, or maybe you're earnestly praying to whatever you call God or your deity for fulfillment of a particular wish or desire, or maybe being grateful and thankful for some blessing that you've had. Those are activities, definitely, if you are inclined to do that, you should do, continue to do, always. Those are thinking processes. Those are processes that are actively engaging the mind, and they may be nourishing to the mind and nourishing to the spirit and nourishing to the soul. They're just different than transcending. Meditation is about going beyond thinking to the source of thought, to the source of your soul, to the source of your being, and bringing that back up into your living experience. The beautiful thing, the best advice that I've ever heard about praying or thinking about God is that the best time to do that is after you've meditated. Meditate first and dive into that ocean of pure consciousness, of pure being, that reservoir that your soul is built upon, and then bring that out into your prayer. Bring that out. In other words, two things are going to be happening here. One is you're going to be releasing a lot of stress that may keep that prayer, that thought of God or Jesus or Buddha or whoever your deity may be, keep that from being quite as clear and as beautiful and as wonderful, because you've got these stresses going on at the same time. So if you're able to drop some of that stress and bring up that wonderful feeling, that wonderful experience of pure consciousness into your prayer, into your thoughts about God, then that's going to be richer and fuller. And most people say that their experience during and after the prayer or the thoughts about the divine image that they may have are much richer after they meditate. So they're two very different things. They're complementary. They're just two very different things.
One thing
that makes sense?
Yeah,
okay.
To me it does.
That can get a little abstract, and
well,
we don't want to step on anybody's religious toes here. We don't want to say that praying and thinking of God, if that is your tradition and your belief, it's not that you shouldn't do that. What you're probably going to find is you're going to enjoy and do that more if you're inclined to do that, because you have so much more of yourself that you're bringing to it. It's like if your child is running to you and you want to reach out and embrace and love them, if you want to love anyone, if your heart is free of stress, if it's less stressful, if your mind is clearer, if there's more of your pure being within you, then that act of love, that feeling of love, that embrace of the child, for example, I'm just using that as an example, is going to be much richer, not only for you, but for the child on the other end. So think about calling God on the phone. If you're much happier and feeling much better when you're calling God on the phone, then you're probably going to have a better experience on the phone. As a silly example.
Well, no, that's a good metaphor, actually. I think that's a good metaphor, because praying, I think, is more like talking to God.
Yeah.
On the phone.
Yeah.
And meditation is more like silently listening for God.
Yes.
And so you're culturing two different things. On the one hand, you're culturing a more active, when you're praying, your mind is more active, you're actively engaged, you're actively communicating. When you're sitting in meditation, you are just going to the source and listening. And you're establishing yourself in the silence so that you can hear what God has to say to you.
Yeah, and there's I think it's in the Psalms. Well, there are several phrases that sort of relate to that, but one of them is "Be still and know that I am God." And the first part of that is "Be still," and that phrase actually is mirrored almost in the Old Vedic text and in a lot of ancient religious texts, of going to stillness first and then knowing your experience of God, if you're religiously inclined. And it's always the stillness comes first. So if you can track that analogy a little further if you want, that experience a little further, and realize that maybe at that level, as you're saying, of the transcendent, of pure consciousness, maybe the distinction between the pure being of God and that pure consciousness falls away. Now, took that to the metaphysical limits there, but the distinction on the relative level of talking to God, that's one thing. And then there's the experience of being able to listen or maybe commune with that pure being. And that is... Yeah,
atonement.
Yeah.
At one with.
At one with, exactly. Yeah. Any more?
Yes, we have just a few minutes left.
All right.
Shall we take another question, or did you want to wrap up? And that's your choice.
How many minutes do we have?
We have about
I'm
6
just rattling
minutes
on.
left.
Well, I think we sort of touched on the surface of meditation as we're teaching it and as we understand it and have experienced it for way many years. And as we're bringing out through our MetaZone program for other people, it seems to be that in the MetaZone experience in the fitness programs, one of the phrases that we came up with was "fitness begins within," and really that's just us sort of remembering what we maybe already or always knew, or what is always true, that any level of fitness has to begin somewhere on the inside. And we are able to sort of make the correlation between, connect the dots between that inner fitness, the quiet, silent inner fitness, bringing that, developing that, and seeing how that works in all other levels of fitness as well. So that's sort of the core of what MetaZone is all about, is all that fitness begins within, and then we have techniques and particular procedures that bring it out to activity, and there's a wonderful marriage of those two experiences that becomes greater and greater with more experience. So that's been pretty much what we're talking about here today. We've had so many people ask us about, oh, you have a meditation technique. Oh, okay, so you've been meditating all these years? Well, can you tell us something about that? So this is sort of an introductory effort or attempt to stab in the dark at trying to bring that out within our MetaZone programs and say, yes, we have been meditating for a long time, and yes, we do have techniques for that. Yeah, we'd love to be able to share them with you. And we love even more the fact that when you come back later and say, just like with the MetaZone fitness programs, hey, this really works. This really was easy. I really can do this. I really can fit this into my day, and I really am seeing some benefits. That's really where the fulfillment comes for us.
Great.
The end, or
not well,
or is there a PS to that?
Oh, one other thing that you should know, you can contact me, Joe at metazonesystem.com. That's my email. You can email me any questions that you might have that came up for you tonight while we were talking, and we'd be glad to do more hangouts on specific topics that people are interested in.
Yeah, and in fact, and my MetaZone email is metazone108, metazone108@gmail.com. Feel free to ask any questions. It's sometimes easier to deal with the topic when you're addressing a specific question than it is to just sort of what we were trying to do tonight, do sort of an intro to the MetaZone meditation programs. So if there are specific questions, anything that didn't make sense to you, and there may be a lot of things, but if because I didn't do a good enough job of explaining it, but if there's anything that did make sense, or something needs more clarification, or something that's specific for you and your interests and your needs, please don't hold back. Please just let me and or Joe know, and we'll do our very best to try to clarify that for you, to make it meaningful for you. And if you're interested in learning how to meditate, in any of the techniques that we have, then we'd be more than happy to coach you in that. Frankly, it's an honor for us to teach this precious level of knowledge, and we get probably more out of it than you do.
Steve is in charge of the MetaZone Department of Inner Fitness, and I'm in charge of the MetaZone Department of Outer Fitness.
They do fit together, inner fitness and outer fitness.
Yes, and they do complement each other.
We try to.
So
I certainly laugh about it a lot. We hope you will too.
So thank you for listening, and thank you for your questions. And we hope that this has been of value and valuable to you. And please let us know what else you'd like to talk about, what questions you might have. We're open and ready to help you out in any way we can.
However long that you've been with us this evening, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know how you did it.
And you put up with us, so that's, you need a merit badge or something for that. Take the rest of the evening off. Call in sick tomorrow. Take 2 aspirin, call somebody else tomorrow. But whatever the case may be, we've enjoyed it, obviously, and we hope you have too. We hope it's been meaningful and beneficial to you. And do just completely bombard us with any thoughts or questions you have. We'll try to be there for you. Thanks again.
Good night.
Stay in the zone.